Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen W. Long, and this is The Writing Life. And I want to welcome you back because it's been quite some time. We've been off the air for a couple of years now, and it's really nice to be back. Because it's been so long, I feel like there's a little housekeeping I'd like to do. And one of the things is to thank McMinnville Community Media for hosting us, and AAYC for their sponsorship, so Arts Alliance of Yamhill County. And I also want to thank Larry Miller, who's in the booth today, and we wouldn't have a show without him. And Caroline O'Brien, who I've said before, but it's the truth, she does all the work. And again, we just wouldn't have a show without those guys. So having said that, I'm so pleased that my first guest after all this time is my friend Courtney Terry. And Courtney, I'm going to let you give us your title because I would say it wrong, so go ahead.
I am a librarian.
Okay.
In particular, I am the Adult Services Supervisor at McMinnville Public Library.
Okay.
So my department is the upstairs at the library. So
Right.
we do, adult collection, adult and teen. We have all the internet computers,
Okay.
all of the research questions, those types of things.
Well, see, that's where I was going to go because I would say, I thought at some point I was introduced to you, or the other way around, as a reference librarian, but that's under the umbrella of?
Yeah, and I would say reference librarian is a dated term for our library.
Okay.
And it's because, and you would know this better than I do, but before information was so widely available on the internet and other, people would have to go to librarians, and the librarians were the ones that had all the answers.
I've actually done that,
Yes.
if you can imagine. No,
and I didn't mean to be I wasn't really around when they were doing it that way.
Right.
But yeah, and it absolutely, and we called it the reference desk.
Yeah.
For years and years, and then we changed it to information desk just because that helps people, if they're coming into the library, what do they need?
Sure.
They want some information. Where can they go? They can go to the information desk.
There are marvels of our time now, and certainly the internet is one. And as an example, we'll be watching a show and think, what's that actor's name? And look it up. And so there's it seems limitless, the information that is available to us almost spontaneously.
Yes.
How does that affect you? Has it changed anything for you?
Yes. Well, and it's, there's a really good quote by Neil Gaiman that says, Google can bring you back 1,000 answers or 1,000,000 answers, honestly.
Sure.
But a librarian can help you find the right one.
Right.
And that is very much a lot of what we do is, it's helping people navigate. A lot of times we'll get folks that come in and they will need to fill out, job applications. So many job applications are online now.
Okay.
And to apply online, you have to have an email address, you have to have a digital copy of your resume and all these things. And, for a lot of folks, that's just not, might not even have an email. And so, for people, it can be oh yeah, of course I have an email, but there's a lot of people out there where they've never needed to have one until they find themselves needing to apply for a job or needing to look for services. And so a lot of what we do are just kind of, it's we're bridging the kind of digital divide between the folks who kind of know what to do and those who don't. And if you want a lesson in patience, not just with the people, but in having to, you go on your phone and you can scroll and bring up things, and by now it's a natural movement.
Right.
But when you have to slow it down so you can explain it to somebody else, it gets Like,
when you do it all the
really
time,
think
it's
about it.
almost muscle memory.
Yeah.
And you're not processing it like that. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
But now to tell somebody else how to do it,
Yes.
not that I could do your job, but in some other area, how did you do that? Well, I'm not really sure. Let me
Yes.
back up and think about it.
And we've had, I had one of our regular patrons the other day. I was helping them to, post something for sale on Craigslist.
Really?
And which is another thing that we can help people do a lot is,
Sure.
kind of navigate like online marketplaces. And they told me that how much they appreciated the help that I was giving them, because they have adult children, and some folks have grandchildren.
Sure.
But they feel, trying to ask their family member, like, hey, can you show me how to do this on the computer? Hey, can you take the time and the energy to
Right.
go through this?
Right.
I mean, I know my son is 19, and there was actually this a few days ago, it was something on the phone that I did not know how to do.
Right.
And I was trying to figure it out, and he can just be like, oh yeah, it's da-da-da-da-da, it's this. And they can do it in like seconds. And I have to be like, whoa, so how'd you do that?
Right.
Okay. And I mean, and I help people with their technology for a living all
Yeah,
the time. And
yeah.
there's still things that you come across.
I think, I don't think I came up with this, I think I read it. When children learn a language, one of the reasons, their brains are more plastic, but they also are unafraid, they're unembarrassed. So they'll talk, and they don't care about making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think that translates to learning technology, because I certainly interact with older people who say, oh, I don't want to push the wrong button. I don't want to break it.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
and so that's part of that generational difference.
And it's just that helping them be like, absolutely, I can get why you are intimidated or kind of overwhelmed by this. But at the same time, like, you can do it. Everybody, I think,
nobody's
going to hit the red button that activates, the nuclear option. And,
Right.
So often it's that trial and error. And I
Sure.
mean, that's what we tell people at the library too is, one of the best ways to get better at using your devices is just that practicing
You gotta
until
do
you
it.
build the muscle memory of it yourself.
Sure.
But I mean, and that's just one of the things I love about it is
Yeah.
being able to have people come in and to help them. And then they, at the end of the day, or I mean, at the end of the hour, or 10 minutes or whatever it is, they can leave and we've helped them accomplish something.
I think this is the right word, a meme, and I've seen these things that promote the library, that they do all these things. And what a great concrete lesson this is. It's not just go get a book.
Yeah.
And so I think more broadly, it really supports the community or a portion of the community who really wouldn't have access to technology in another way.
And that's circling back around. Like
Right.
that's kind of the adult services aspect.
Exactly.
Like absolutely. We love doing readers advisory. We love helping people find books, and that part is still so much of the library and what it does. But then there's also all these other things. So we help people with their technology needs. We help people, with their reading needs. We help
Sure.
people with their, services, like with job hunting or connecting them to community resources. And yeah, it's so, I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think if it was just books and just readers advisory, I would never get bored. But because I mean, honestly, I could.
I was thinking that if this were an interview, if I were interviewing you, one of the questions would be, what draws you to this position? Except I think it's self-explanatory. You seem so excited about the scope of what you do, and I think that's great.
Well, and it's so much about people and the interactions, and we have our regulars that come in every day, and it's wonderful to see them. And it's the idea of, I mean, we kind of do the same things every day. Like, I sit at the desk and I wait for people to come and ask me questions and, do things. And it happens every day, but every day it's a different, it's a different person, it's a different question, it's a different thing that they're looking for.
Right.
And so that's what it definitely keeps me so engaged. And I mean, that's what I almost feel like I am an anomaly in library culture, because
Really?
I am very extroverted, and most librarians are a little introverted.
Oh, I suppose.
It's funny.
Quiet.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And, or maybe this kind of idea of like a half and half, where it's like, I'm just going to do my own thing until I need to be.
Right.
But I get so much energy and just well-being from having these interactions with people and helping people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, I mean, anyone out there who would want to be a librarian, like, yes, library experience is important, but even more so, it's that ability to connect with people.
Sure.
And to know how to ask questions and listen to the answers. But
Courtney, I'm going to divert just for a second.
Sure.
No, let's not spend a lot of time on this. But because it's public,
Yes.
it's a public space,
yes.
not everybody can be great.
No.
Not everybody's wonderful.
No.
Do you, does that sour you ever? Or do you just, how to handle those kinds of folks? And
Yes. Yes and no. I mean,
Okay.
it definitely, I feel very much that it can be similar to if you've ever worked in food service.
Sure.
Or if you've ever worked in a retail environment.
Right.
You get those customers that come in and, are just difficult or entitled or angry or intoxicated. And,
Right.
it's just part of the job. And I would say a few years ago, it was way harder for me.
Yeah.
If we had somebody that was like upset in the library and, making a disruption and having to go and talk to them, it used to be something I really hated doing.
Right.
But since then, I mean, we've really had a lot of training. And that's the thing, like, we do at the library, we've done de-escalation training. We've done, specific training on dealing with people who are in a bad way. And,
That's wonderful.
It's part
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, and that's what, I mean, we just want the library to be a safe and comfortable space
Sure.
for everybody. And so, that's what, I mean, Jenny, the library director,
Right.
and the other supervisors, like, it's such a good environment of where we can't stick our heads in the sand when there's somebody being awful in
Right,
the library, but every time, like, dealing with a difficult person doesn't have to be a traumatic experience every time.
Right.
And so,
Knowing what to do makes the
Yes.
difference.
yes. And that's what I feel really good about the training that we've had, because I do feel, any situation, like, I definitely, like, take some deep breaths beforehand and then go and, like,
Right.
address it. And then I probably definitely take some deep breaths after. But it's gotten a lot easier, and it didn't be. And that was something that
Right.
took a lot of practice
Of course.
and a lot of training. But now,
Because, and I would suspect that part of the training is to not take it personally.
Yeah.
It's not you.
yes,
It's not you.
we have kind of one of our little staff rules we have at the library is remember to Q-tip, which is quit taking it personally. And it's silly, because I think when we did it, like, initially it was on, like, a little note card that had a Q-tip on it. But honestly, that is one of the things that I remind myself the most. Like, yeah, just Q-tip, like, anytime. Because, I get kind of high-strung and emotional once in a while. And that's what, it's taking that step back and be like, whatever this person is doing, that is their day.
Right.
Like, I'm just going to help them get where they need to go, especially if it's outside the library. And then, so that, yes, absolutely quit taking it personally. It's very important.
I didn't have any training other than observation. But I had a boss one time, and my desk was next to his office. And a customer came in, and the door was open, and he just berated my friend and my boss. And why we'll never do business with you again, and on and on and on. So then the fellow left. And I got up and I went to my boss's door, and I said, oh, I'm sorry about that. And he said, about what? And I said, well, the fellow was yelling at you. And he said, oh, no, he wasn't yelling at me. He was yelling at the manager. And he said, when I come in the morning, I have an invisible manager suit, and I put that on. And then at night, I hang it back up. And I don't know if that's silly or helpful. I mean, it was helpful to me.
No, I mean, that just makes so much sense. Because a lot of times, especially when someone is yelling at you like that, like, no, they're not actually yelling at you, the person.
Right.
It's kind of like people who get really awful with telemarketers or with customer service people on the phone.
Sure.
You know, they're so frustrated by whatever that they just have to let it out, even if it's, you know, your boss was not the person who
right.
had made that person upset. But yeah, sometimes you do kind of just have to absorb the other person's frustration. And I like that idea of a suit, though.
Pull in.
I do.
Before we run out of time, let's talk about poetry.
Yes.
So this is April.
This is April. Happy National Poetry Month.
National Poetry Month.
Yes.
And what are you guys up to?
So we had our poetry night. So we've been doing it kind of throughout the pandemic. We've been doing online poetry nights using Zoom. And so last Thursday we had the Oregon Poet Laureate Anis Mojani do a reading over Zoom. And he is incredible. Because he's the Oregon Poet Laureate. Yeah. He's been chosen to represent Oregon through poetry, but he also is like a 2-time national and world slam poetry champion. Okay. So his way of reading it's so powerful. I can't wait to have him back like in person. And so that was what we had that reading. But I'm really excited. We've gotten to the point we're starting in the next month, and over the summer, we're going to be doing our poetry nights in person again. Right. And we're going to have them at the McMinnville Senior Center.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, weren't they at Gallery or the?
They've been at the Gallery at 10 Oaks.
Yeah.
And I miss the Gallery very much. It was such a great space, and it still is. And I hope to get back there eventually. But one thing about the Senior Center that's really helpful is it has so much space. Like I was going to
say it because I've been at the Gallery, and it's lovely, but it's not gigantic.
Yes, and so this is in the Senior Center. They have their dining room. There's these huge vaulted ceilings. It's just this open space. We had a harp concert there in March. Okay. It was the librarian, the Senior Center partner to have it, and like the way the music filled that space. So I am so excited to get people in there reading poetry. Sure. And then they have a really nice outdoor patio area. So probably in July or August we'll do some outdoor readings right by the park there. I'm really excited. You know, it's one thing to see faces on the Zoom screen, which is lovely, but just
we tried one of these shows on Zoom, and it just there's no feeling. Yeah. I wasn't good at that.
I did my best. Yeah. I mean, I will say, I will miss being in person. That I couldn't. I mean, I guess I still could, but I could have my sweatpants on. Oh, sure. Like have my nice poetry reading shirt. Right. And then have my sweatpants. Yeah. Which, you know, I guess I could still do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, that's what I'm just so excited to start having more of those in-person poetry events.
Oh, for sure.
You know, there's other projects going on. I have a dream about doing maybe like a youth poetry night somewhere.
That would be wonderful.
at this point, like, I'm just exploding with joy.
Now,
to have poetry back in a real
Sure.
space.
It makes me think of a couple things. I mentioned that you're the host of Arts Alive. I know that you've had David Holmes on. I have to think that he's going to be one of these folks.
Yes. Yeah.
But the other thing that strikes me is Little McMinnville has so many very fine poets.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's really just honestly like regular folks who have other jobs and things they do, and this is just something they love and they're passionate about in their spare time. And I am so excited to have Dave and all the other regulars back in.
So you probably know Barbara Drake.
Yes, yes.
She's kind of my favorite.
She's my favorite too.
And so her collection, Driving 100, I got that book and I read the first one. And I thought, holy cow, can I relate to that? Holy cow, and the second one.
Yes.
and so I think that there are poets who intentionally maybe try to be somewhat obscure, and I don't like that. And Barbara's work is so accessible. My other favorite is Ted Kooser, and he was poet laureate of, I think, Kansas.
Oh, neat.
And then later, I think, of the United States. But again, just real relatable.
Yes.
You don't have to, what's he talking about? And so.
Yes.
But David's work, I've heard him on several occasions, and I like that.
Yes, and when I was interviewing him, it was funny. I had him read 2 poems, and the first one was one of his favorites, because his book of poetry, it's from the river, the classroom, and other sacred places.
Right.
And then I asked him if he could read my favorite poem from his book, which is a poem called Vulture Spring, because vultures are my favorite. I love vultures. I think they're just the coolest birds. And he had said, he's like, people tell me when their favorite poems are, and no one's really ever picked that one before.
Yeah.
But it was perfect. I feel like I need to do like a reunion tour of some of the poets that we had over the Zoom.
Oh, okay.
They were one of Brittany Corrigan, who's from Portland, she has a book out, her book of poetry is called Daughters, and it's a collection of poems that she's basically taken all these different mythical figures and so
Mythical daughters?
yes,
Okay.
and they're poems about and it's the witch's daughter, Bigfoot's daughter, but then it's also the carpenter's daughter and the taxi cab daughter, it's, and I love
What an
it.
interesting theme.
Yeah, and then Jennifer Perrine, another poet that we had, all of hers was based on math. There's poetry where they turned the poetry into math puzzles, and something about the way that the meter and it's
Right.
It feels like Mensa for poets, but
Sure.
it's just so incredible that's. I had no idea that was part of poetry, was messing around with fractals, and it's fantastic.
So music is math.
Yes.
And I think to some extent poetry is music. So
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
And that's what I would have to say. My favorite musical poet is probably Paul Simon.
Oh,
He and I have had
thank
a
you for bringing that up.
lifelong love.
Yeah.
Well, his life has been longer than mine is, but my lifelong love.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a thing, and it's one of those I feel a good poem is one that could be put to a melody.
Sure.
And yeah, there's.
My granddaughter, who I've interviewed because she wrote a novel, I think she started it when she was 12 or 13 and finished it the next year. And you would think, yeah, right, a 12-year-old, that's a proud grandpa, and I certainly am. But the other thing is, I do a lot of critiquing, and it was pretty good. And so now, I'm going somewhere. I talked to her the other day, and I talked to her about poetry and so on, and she said, well, I'm trying to write lyrics. And so here's where the tie-in is.
Yes.
I copied a bunch of Paul Simon's lyrics because I think he's the best. And and sent those to her as examples of what to strive for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a really nice job.
And I've said I think Bob Dylan has earned his place.
Yes.
But wasn't it a Pulitzer? Didn't he win a Pulitzer?
Oh yeah, he did.
And God bless him, but I think Paul Simon should be there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's it. Now we can have a TV show that's a Paul. We can have a Paul Simon fan club TV show next time.
Yeah. It's a little trivia for everybody.
Yes.
There's Kathy's song.
Yes.
And that woman, Kathy, is on the cover of one of his.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's in Hearts and Bones, when he has the line about 1 1/2 wandering Jews, he's referring to his marriage to Carrie Fisher.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know the reference. But
Yeah, well,
I knew they were married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and now I'm going to have to go look at that album cover.
Yeah.
Because, of course, I have the albums and probably the CD somewhere.
Well, it's good to have a backup.
Yes.
Again, this went too fast.
It really does.
So I want to ask you about prose.
Yes.
I'm not sure how this happens or what it is. Mike Santoni was telling me about a writer's night or a writer's
so there's
group?
yes, so it's the Yamhill River Writers, and they're a writing group. They used to be the writing. They met at the library before the pandemic, and now they will be back meeting at the library.
With a new name, though.
With an Yamhill River Writers,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, so they're going to start meeting, I believe, May 9th.
Yes.
So starting in May, they're going to be meeting regularly at the library again. And that's a critique group that's open to anybody.
Well, I was going to ask you what form it takes, but so you bring your work, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, you can really bring anything.
Okay.
And I think folks do. And that's
I
what
would guess that there's a page limit or a word limit or something.
That is a good question. I would imagine. Nobody wants to be the person who's like, oh, yes, I brought this. I will be reading for the next 40 minutes.
Right, yeah.
But I think it's kind of like you can bring, even if you're writing a longer document, you can bring like snippets of it.
Of course.
Like or like chapters or.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's so much possibility they could.
Again, I've been in a critique group for 30 years or something. I mean, in one place or the other. And I was told, and it seems to be true, that about 10 pages is an audience, that's about all they can follow.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's like watching somebody do a reading, and you do sometimes, maybe especially with speeches, you kind of are like, wait, how many pages is that?
Right.
Oh, that's a lot. How far along are they? Oh, but
Yeah.
That's what I think. Yeah, and it's just, if it's, everybody's there for the same reasons. They want to write, and they want to improve their writing, and they want to get feedback from other people.
Right.
And like I think it's just, again, it's so much about the artistic writing community that's here in McMinnville and Yamhill County. And
Yes.
I mean, it's like a metaphor for spring, and the flowers are poking out from the snow and blossoming again. And
No wonder you're heading up the poetry.
I'm doing my.
That was very poetic.
Thank you. I'm trying.
Yeah. I remember when I went to the Squaw Valley Writers Conference, to plop down in the middle of so many people who have a common interest. I didn't know that existed. And I suspect every community has that, and we
Yes.
certainly do here. But it's just to find that and to share your passion was so fulfilling.
Yes. And there were so many times at poetry night when I would see somebody read for the first time at the open mic, and then people would come up to them afterwards and just be like, that was awesome, you did so well.
Yeah.
And like, that's the kind of community you want to see.
Yeah. I had a friend in my first critique group, which was terrific. She was an accomplished writer, and sometimes she would get a suggestion. And I think this is a more seasoned writer, because when you're real new, if you're not solid in your own voice and vision and so on, you can be easily swayed. And if there's 7 people in the room and you get 7 opinions, then it's kind of, well, I don't know what to do. But she wasn't like that. So somebody would make a suggestion and she would say, that's a good idea. Not for this work, but that's a good idea.
Not taking it personally.
Yeah. No, it was terrific. So, and to be able to, I think again, when you're new, when you're starting out, there's so much trepidation because you don't know. You want it to be good, but you don't know if it is. You don't know how it'll be accepted. And so my first writing teacher was perfect for me because she was so gentle. She wouldn't allow, you could critique something, but you couldn't criticize it.
And that's so important, making that distinction.
Yeah.
You're there to help each other and build each other up, not tear each other down.
No, that's not what it's about. Courtney, we got to do this again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're just getting started here.
Yes, welcome back.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Folks, thank you so much. This was fun again. I love talking to these people. And this is The Writing Life. I'm Stephen W. Long. If you care to visit me on my website, stephenwlong.com, I'd love to hear from you. If you have guest suggestions or topic suggestions, sock it to me. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Writing Life. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
All right. I want to...
What do you think? We done?
I don't know, you guys wanna do one
Yeah,
just
I
with
think
yourself
as
without
long
me
as
doing
they
the
think we're
podcast?
done, if
No,
they got
no,
enough, they got enough.
They got enough? Problem? Okay.